Recording in progress.
That means we're good. The time is now 1:30 p.m., and I hereby call the August 11th, 2021 meeting of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Before we begin, we have a few announcements. The Area Board of Zoning Appeal meeting is being held in person and virtually in the fourth floor council chambers of this County City building with Zoom video and phone teleconferencing options available via links and phone information posted on our website, sjcindiana.com/abza. In case anyone needs the phone-in information, our call-in number is 312-626-6799. The meeting ID is 961-6443-3903, and the password is 543186. Due to issues with usage of video by persons viewing meetings, the county has determined that it is appropriate to require during virtual and partially virtual meetings that members of the public viewing meetings keep their microphones and cameras turned off. The host of the meeting will turn the members of the public microphone and cameras off for this purpose. During portions of the meeting where public participation is permitted, the participating member of the public will have their microphone and camera, if any, turned on, and if a member wishes to participate in this portion of the meeting, they should indicate this by using the raise hand feature in Zoom and/or by messaging the host in the chat function. When on the phone, please use *9 to use the raise hand feature to be called on, and you can use *6 to unmute. To use the raise hand feature on Zoom video, click the video controls on the bottom of your screen. If you have two computer video windows open or a live phone active with a video window open at the same time, you will create an echo effect, making hearing you impossible. Please choose one or the other. In consultation with the St. Joe County Health Department, the following protocols will be in place for all meetings in the council chambers. Face coverings are recommended for everyone in the chambers, including board members, presenters, petitioners, members of the public. Regarding public comment, we will first ask for any public comment from those sitting in the chambers, then in the auxiliary seating in the building, and once those in person have provided their comment, those calling into the meeting remotely will be given the opportunity to provide public comment. Those wishing to provide public comment in person should line up on the footprint stickers on the floor leading up to the podium over here to my left, your right, or I guess in front of some of you. Hand sanitizer has been placed next to the podium. We ask that you sanitize your hands before and after leaving the podium area. Signage sheets for public comment have been removed to prevent everyone touching the same pen. For this reason, please clearly state your name and address for the record if you come up to speak, or if you want to speak on the Zoom video. Please do not be surprised if you are asked to spell your name for the record. Your speaking time will not start until after this is done. As a side note, if you wanted an agenda for today's meeting, they are available over on the table there if you did not happen to grab one as you walked in. We appreciate your compliance with these guidelines and your patience while we navigate these unprecedented times. Due to potential face coverings being worn and for the benefit of people listening on the phone, we ask that board members state their name when making a motion and a second. And last but certainly not least, please silence or turn off your cell phones so they do not disturb the meeting or any of your other constituents in this meeting. I don't think I missed anything, right? Okay. May we have the roll call, please?
Christine Deutscher.
Present.
Robert Hawley.
Present.
James Moffett.
Here.
Donnie Ritzma.
Present.
Sidney Schaefer.
Present.
DJ Tavernier.
Tavernier.
Tavernier. I apologize.
Boy, you butchered that.
I sure did. And Joe Velman.
Here. We are a 7-member board, and we have all 7 members here. So that is a perfect storm. Can't beat that at all. It's been a little while. All right.
4 to pass.
Yep, and 4 to pass, correct. Thank you. Mr. Tavernier need to recuse himself before reading a petition?
Yes, if this is the one that he needed to do it on.
Yep.
So I just need to recuse myself from petition
Mr.
number one.
Tavernier is recusing himself from petition number 1. May we have the reading of petition number 1, please?
Location is 52245 Forest Brook Avenue, as tabled. Owner Barbara J. and Leslie A. Frank. Requested action is a variance from Section 154.070CA1 to allow an accessory structure with a height of 22 feet where the maximum height of 19 feet is allowed for a proposed garage. Zoning is R Single Family District.
Yes, Ryan.
Brian Fellows, Area Plan Commission staff. As discussed at the last meeting, there was interest in seeing what the setbacks would be if the proposed building was put 5 feet back from the front line of the neighboring home. And I'll just ask you, Frank, to click into the screen so I can use the, oh, I didn't have it on, that's the problem. Very good, my fault, there we go. So here's the, on the left side of the screen is that light green home, and if that front line of the house, and if you measured 5 feet back from there, that'd be 52 feet back from the right-of-way property line, which for a 48-foot building would lead to a remaining 32 feet on the back side of that property along the public alley, which is 14 feet for an additional space before that property behind it. And there needs to be at least an 8-foot setback on either side, and there's enough room for 8 or 9, so 8.5 in that range, so that's fine. And this shows you what the setback would be, and then there's a supplemental illustration showing where the privacy fence will be moved to, or placed at, I should say, and that there will be arborvitaes planted as a landscape buffer as well. And I'll let the property owner add any other comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have as well.
Any questions for the board from staff? Thank you, Ryan. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbara Frank. I'm the owner of 52245 Forest Brook Avenue, South Bend, Indiana. I agree with everything he has said on this. As requested, we have decided to set back the building per the specs he has indicated. If you look at this picture, we're thinking it's going to be approximately about where the chimney sits for that residential home is about where the building will start.
Okay. And you're going to extend the existing privacy fence all the way up back behind it to the west and then all the way along the south side as well too, per
That's
this
correct.
picture? And put
Yes.
some arborvitaes on the back side?
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay.
If I may. After the meeting last month, I decided I would go out to the property. And first of all, I want to compliment you on the care of that, your home, and the property is immaculate.
Thank you.
The yard and the bushes and the flowers are wonderful. You have one of the nicest homes in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I saw 2 trailers sitting out there, and I can imagine you want to get those inside as quickly as possible.
Yes.
The weather and the varmints are going to eat them up alive if you don't do that. That little house that sits there that you see on the screen can't be more than 600 square feet. It's a tiny little house, and it doesn't even have a driveway. The people just drive up the grass and park the car in front of the house.
Yes.
Anyway, I wanted to share with you that I think the way you laid this out is exactly what I would want you to do. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner from the board? Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
As this petition was tabled from last month, there will be no public portion for this month, so we can move right into any additional comments, questions, or I'll entertain a motion for this petition.
Now, what's the-
I'm sorry, ma'am, there's no public portion on this, this one because we had it last month. Is there-
I'll make a motion that we approve the petition as presented.
Donnie Ritzman, I'll second.
Hold on, I have to write these down. There was a motion made by Mr. Holly and a second made by Mr. Ritzma for approval of the variance as requested. Would you call for the vote, please?
Thank you all
Christine Deutscher,
Yes.
Robert Hawley,
Yes.
James Moffett,
Yes.
Donnie Ritzma,
Yes.
Sidney Schaefer,
Yes.
and Joe Velman.
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, find the variance granted and will issue it in finding the facts. Thank you, ma'am. We'll go grab Mr. Tavernier. May we have the reading of petition number 2, please?
Location is 52694 State Road 933 as tabled. Owner is DEV 52694 SR 933 LLC. Variances requested are from section 154.378 to allow a freestanding sign with a sign surface area of 207 square feet where a maximum of 100 square feet is allowed, and 2, from section 154.378 to allow a freestanding sign with a height of 23 feet 1 inches where a maximum of 15 feet is allowed, and the zoning is C Commercial District.
All right.
Okay, as said, this is another tabled agenda item. So this is the location where that sign would be approximately, and then from the other direction. And then option A was submitted, kind of listening and responding to the discussion last month. It resulted in a total of 179 square feet. I have a breakdown of kind of what the oval, and it's also on the screen as well, for the different component parts. This is, as far as I understand it, in compliance with what was kind of discussed. The staff doesn't have an additional recommendation, it's just the same recommendation as last month. It's just that this is what you had asked for, and that's what we have.
Looking for compromise. All right. Is the petitioner available or on the call? There we go.
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're on, go
Yes,
ahead.
Mr. Tarani, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Wellman. I apologize. I was once again technical difficulty here. So I appreciate the consideration. Again, we did exactly what you asked us to do, which was to reduce the square footage. So the only way we were able to accomplish that is to reduce the sign base by the entire sign by 4 foot. We lowered it down to 19 foot 2 inches. I'm available for any additional questions you might have. You suggested that we take it to close to 170 square feet, including the base, which is pretty much exactly what we've done. The total square footage now, as reported on the staff report, is 173 square feet. I believe. Yes.
Is it 173 or 179? Because the petition
It's-
says 173, but the drawing's 179. Is that the EMC deduction?
Yes, just Abby Wiles, area plan staff. Just to clarify, the discrepancy is between the actual EMC screen versus the cabinet, the entire cabinet.
Okay.
What was applied for was the greater of the two. So at 173, it is slightly under.
Okay. Understood. All right, any questions from the board for the petitioner? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Tarani, appreciate your time. As this was also tabled from the July meeting, the public portion was held then, so there will be no public portion now. I would entertain any additional comments, questions from the board, or a motion.
Make a motion to approve petition number 2.
Second that motion.
Okay, there was a motion made by Mr. Tavernier to
As a
approve.
clarification, the proposal is to
Yeah,
approve option A.
option
Or
A.
option A.
'cause the
Okay,
pro-
so I'll make a motion to approve option A.
Option A,
I was gonna say, because the petition would be the 207.
yes.
Right, okay, option A.
Second that, yes.
So we have a motion by Mr. Tavernier with a second by Mr. Holly to approve option A for petition number 2. Can we have a call for the vote, please?
Christine Deutscher,
Yes.
Robert Holly,
Yes.
James Moffett,
Yes.
Donnie Ritzma,
Yes.
Sydney Schaefer,
Yes.
DJ Tavernier.
Yeah, yes.
Was I closer?
Yes.
And Joe Bellman.
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variances per the option granted and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you, Mr. Fry.
Thank you so much.
Can we have the reading of petition number 3, please?
Location is 52694 State Road 933. Same owners last time, DEV 52694, SR 933 LLC. Requesting the following variances. One from section 154.373E to allow a 500 square foot flag where a maximum combined area of 120 square feet is permitted. From section 154.182F to allow a flagpole with a height of 60 feet where a maximum of 40 feet is permitted. And 3 from section 154.182F to allow a flagpole 60 feet in height to be set back 10 feet instead of the required 40 feet. The zoning is C Commercial District.
That's right.
Okay, I'll ask you, Frank, could you please click on the screen?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. Whenever it switches between administering the controls, it just does that, so just letting the public know. Anyway, this is the same spot as the last petition, so same location. I wanted to bring up this particular screen. Information is from the Flag Manufacturers Association of America. They have, they're kind of the Flag Association of America, as their name would imply. And they kind of come up with a recommendation of what would be appropriate sizing for different sizes of poles. And ordinarily, in the location where this flagpole is meant to be, our zoning code allows for it to be 40 feet tall. That's the first one with a red rectangle around the flag height. And in that instance, the recommendation from the FMAA is to have a 6x10 flag, which is 60 square feet. Now, our zoning ordinance does allow for 120 square feet, so we do allow quite a lot larger than that. But that's also the combined of all the flags, and so, but that does allow that. And what's being proposed here is actually a 60-foot flagpole, so that is quite a bit higher than the regular 40 that is permitted. And the FMAA does recommend that if you're gonna have that size flag, that maximum size should be a 10 by 15, which would work out to be a 150 square foot flag, which is obviously larger than our standard of what our regulation allows. And in reviewing this, I inserted into the staff report the provision of the intent of the flag, of the sign ordinance, which does count flags as a sign. It is an attention-getting device, whether its original purpose is patriotic or otherwise, it still is an attention-getting device, and it would not be appropriate to allow one merchant to have more attention-getting surface area than others in this corridor unless there was something unique about this property. And that's why when you look at the state law, there's the 3 criteria. And when you look at public safety, health, morals, and general welfare, in particular, the general welfare of having a community that has a similar uniform look where there's diversity of options C, but still not above and beyond in a gigantic, oversized way. Also, for B, the area adjacent have value that would not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Again, that's that attention-getting area it would be substantially larger. And then C, the strict application of the terms of the chapter would result in practical difficulty of the use of the property. This one really ties to if there's something unusual about the property, maybe it's triangle-shaped, or there's a right-of-way taking that happened, or some other special circumstance where the property just can't be used the way that everyone else gets to use their property, then that would really fit into this, and that situation doesn't really exist here. So staff recommends against this variance.
And then just to add some additional information, similar variances were requested by the petitioner for a location on State Road 23 in the city of South Bend. Area variance for flag was heard last week, and it was denied because the City of South Bend's Board of Zoning Appeals found that it didn't meet the criteria for state code.
Any questions for the staff? All right. Mrs. Tarani, would you like to add anything to the petition? Hold on, you're still muted. Hold on one second. Ain't technology grand.
Okay, here we go. Thank you so much for letting me unmute. I appreciate that. So I really hope that the decision that was made at the South Bend at 23 does not impact the decision that you will have today. And let me first of all, I made an error at that meeting and didn't really share the information that I will be sharing with you today. The first one being that this flag that the sizes that are shown on the picture that the staff just showed are for military flags, not for commercial flags. Number one. Number two, they're disproportionate. So they're not, if you look at the physical size of the flag on the pole, what's described on the bottom as being actually proportional, if you do the physical measurement, they're not physically proportionate to the actual. So the flag is actually looking bigger on the physical pole shown on the 40-foot or the 60-foot than it really is compared to the actual size that is described next to it. That's a fact, by the way. I'm an engineer by trade, so that's an easy calculation. You can do that just by putting a ruler right next to it. That flag, so when you say 40 foot, so picture this. It says that flag is only 6 foot tall. To be 6 foot tall, that means the base of the pole to the top of the pole would have to be 7 times, to be more exact, 6.8 times the height of that flag physically shown. There's no way. That's not even 5 times. It's never mind 6.8 times. So that flag that's shown there will actually be far smaller than the 6 by 10 that's physically shown. And so I'm not sure, I'm not saying anybody purposely try to do that, but that is not representative of what that flag size of 6 by 10 would look like on a pole 40 foot tall or 60 foot tall for that matter. So I'd like to kind of read to you what my position would be. I don't really believe that the flag on a road, like the big difference between this road and State Road 23, you have signs on this road. There's one sign that's just south of us on the opposite side of the street that's 60 foot plus taller. And so if there's an attention getting device, it would not be a flag. It would be that sign for the hotel. That's I don't know, maybe like a 1/10 of a mile south of us on the opposite side. Number one. Number two, a billboard. So we're proposing a 325 square foot. It was my mistake to put in 500 square foot, which is inaccurate. The actual flag size that we're proposing is only 325 square foot. A typical billboard, like the ones that Burkhardt places on, and there's plenty of them on that road, is about 1,300, just shy of 1,300 square foot for the printed surface area of that billboard. Of course, the physical structure is even bigger, but the physical billboard. So at 1,300 compared to our 300, our flag would be less than almost a fifth of that size. I don't think that would be any more attention getting than a billboard of 5 times its size. And so that's the first one. So I don't think there's going to be any safety issues, which is what staff has written. The second one is the use and value of the adjacent area to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. May I please ask the staff to put up this, because you have it in my previous variance request, the area that is landscaped before we bought the property and the area that's landscaped after, because I provided you a drawing of before and after. And the before.
Are you looking for
I
this
think-
one?
No, there's if you keep going back, because it's part of it's like maybe 10 pages after you submit the data that you submitted. Okay, we're gonna go forward of this. I don't have that in the packet that you sent me, but there is in the packet that was sent to me by Ms. Wild yesterday. There was a page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 pages in from the document that I printed from what was sent to me, has a depiction of what the landscaping looked like prior. Do you happen to have, can you pull that up?
The presentation is not the same as what was submitted in the packet, but they're looking at the hard copy in front of them right now.
Okay, can you please look at the hard copy and see I think again, 7 or 8 pages in, you'll see a landscaping that is like highlighted before and after. Mr. Valman, can you see it? Can you see that? So if you look at the landscaping prior and after, I mean, we care a lot about making things look prettier than uglier. So I can't imagine that the installation of a beautiful U.S. flag would reduce the value of the area by any stretch or any means, especially in the landscaping proposal that's our plan that we have right now. So I don't believe that will have a negative impact on value of the properties adjacent to us. And so many people actually rave about the fact that we are patriotic. We fly these beautiful flags with lighting underneath them, and I just think that they're beautiful. The next one says strict application of the terms of this ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Here's what I wrote. The ordinance as written does not distinguish between U.S. flag and other flags. It simply states 120 foot of flag is permitted. We're talking about a U.S. flag, not just a flag. In 25 years we've been in business, we have never, ever flown any other flag, be it Notre Dame or anything else ever, other than a U.S. flag. And I feel very patriotic about the fact that I want to fly. I wasn't born in this country, as you can tell with my accent, but my son is born. He went to Notre Dame here, and we feel very patriotic about our flag and our country. And I think that we have the most amazing country in the world, and we're proud to fly our flag everywhere. And the last one was, I guess those are the only 3 things that I was supposed to discuss. So with that, that's really, I've taken more of your time than I deserve, and I appreciate your consideration.
So according to Mr. Tarani, according to the site plan that I have, which is marked, the new one, which I believe is C101, you're going to have your new sign is going to be oriented to the south side of that new landscaping, and the flagpole will be oriented more towards the middle of that new landscaping. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the sign that was just approved in the previous agenda item is at 19 foot 2 inches. And so you're asking for the flag to be 3 times the amount of your sign. That's correct?
Just the height, not the physical size.
Correct, the height. And then that is also requiring you to be so closer to the road because it's only a 10-foot setback instead of the required 40-foot setback.
There's no other place physically, if you look at the dimensions of this property and how we had to leave so much space on the east side of it for setback against the neighborhood, against a residential neighborhood. This was always a commercial property, but I bought it very closely to the neighborhood. So we brought our building as far as we could forward to try to mitigate and not be so close to that. And that obviously reduced it didn't reduce. That's how much green space, that's how much space is there right now. We didn't actually increase or reduce it. It's basically about the same size. And so there is practical difficulty in placing the flag anywhere else on this property. There's no other place to put it if we're going to have a flag. And we have a flag at every location we have. Mr. Baumann, if you've been to any, if you've seen our locations, doesn't matter whether it's in Kalamazoo, Niles, Michigan, or here in South Bend, Mishawaka, Elkhart, it's basically everywhere. Forgive me, my light just went off here.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
Any questions for Mr. Tarani from the board?
So you said that you made a mistake and the flag is actually 325 square feet, not 500, correct?
Correct.
So what's
The
the
size
actual?
It's 15 by 25.
Thank you, because I couldn't do that math in my head.
Well, that's what I was sitting here doing, different.
Pardon me if I may add clarification. Frank, if I could click onto the screen for me so I can, thank you. On this, on the flag poles, it might be visually a little deceptive. There's a patch of grass at the bottom of the screen that shows where the bottom of the pole is. So the bottom of the pole is not meant to be the horizon. And so that's why it visually looks like there's something skewed, because that patch of grass at the bottom is meant to be the bottom of the flagpole. And it may not be completely evident that that's what's there, but that's why it may visually look like, oh, if that pole goes down to the horizon, it looks shorter. So just keep in mind that that goes all the way down to that grass patch.
And then as an additional clarification, DJ, I think you might have just said 325?
Yeah, did you
It's
say
375.
Yeah, it's
375. May I add one more comment? If you travel south of us, there is a Bell Tire, it's not in your township, but it's south of us. They have a flag that's about 1.5 times the size of the flag that we propose to fly on a 60-foot pole.
Yeah, there's a huge. Okay.
It's majestic. It looks beautiful. I think it's disproportionate, honestly, to the size of the pole, but it's very pretty.
Any other questions, Mr. Tarani?
No, thank you.
Thank you, sir. With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition, please come forward or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition, please come forward or raise your hand on Zoom. Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Is there any additional comments, questions, or I will entertain a motion? And I guess if I just had to make a comment, by all means, I'm all in favor of having an American flag if it's flown properly, any place we can put it. And the bigger the better in a lot of cases, but one of the things we have to look at is the practical difficulties, and I can see about 4 different spots on this site plan that you could put a flag and still meet one, at least the setback criteria. There's a patch of land there on the south side. You could round to the building. There are some things that can be done to do that. Now, that's just my opinion.
There's a light pole. There's a light pole there on the south side in that patchy grass area.
And he's allowed 40 feet within the 10 feet, correct?
The need for the setback comes from the height
The height.
exceeding the maximum of what is allowed. So for anything over 40 feet, and the structure has to be set back an additional 2 feet for every foot of height over 40.
So, and the flagpole itself will be still twice the height of the sign. It'll just be 30 feet south of it as well, too. So,
If the flagpole did not exceed the height, it wouldn't need to be set
it wouldn't
back
need to
at
be
all.
set back, correct.
For the sign, the flags there you have, though it's disproportional, a 60-foot pole with a 15 by 25 flag on it.
Right.
But I've seen it before. where
Oh,
the
he's
flag-
not wrong. Bell Tires, I mean, they got huge flags. I'm not
Yeah.
going to dispute that fact. He's correct.
And it hangs halfway down the pole when it's limp.
That's in South Bend, though, so that's a different scenario for us. Yeah, they've got them, and there's one on Portage in South Bend, too,
Yeah.
so.
But they're the same size?
I don't know how big they are, no.
I don't either.
I just know they're big.
They're big.
They're definitely larger than ours.
I would entertain a motion.
Your recommendation was denial, right?
Yes, the recommendation was denial.
And, you know, just to reiterate, the recommendation is denial based on the fact that a flag meeting the requirements of the ordinance is permitted. And at 120 square feet, it's exempt. It doesn't even require approval from our office, from planning.
I would make a proposal to deny the variance as requested, or make a motion to deny the variance as requested.
You're the chairperson, you're not supposed to make a motion.
I thought I could if no one else did.
That would be the only situation in which you can, yeah.
I didn't hear anybody else speaking up.
It's disfavored, let's put it that way. You can do it.
I think part of it's just the location of it. Because bell tires are always put back in 30, 40 feet off the road.
Well, it is technically three separate variances, so we could say yes on 1 and 2 and not on 3, correct? I mean, we could do
That is
that.
a thing that you have the ability to do.
Yeah, we could do that. If that's what, I mean, my motion dies for lack of a second, so I'm now entertaining a motion for something else.
May I speak at all? I mean, I know that it's probably the end of this, but can I mean, I'm willing to put it, if I have a place that, maybe I move my lighting unit back. If I have to create a space that would be further back than what is acceptable to have the flag to be the size that I believe would be the appropriate size, given the size of signs and everything else that's so much larger.
I think we're trying to figure that out right at the moment, Mr. Tarani.
Okay, thank you. Forgive me I don't mean to complicate it more.
Can't do one at 500 though.
Is there a reason for the 375 size of this flagpole? Could it not just be smaller?
So we work with the sign company so again, we're talking military versus commercial. So in the commercial applications, the gentleman that I work with out of Chicago is the third largest distributor of flags in the country. That's the size that he's recommended for all of our other flagpoles is the size that is being proposed here. And if you look at our Mishawaka location, practically every other location that we have, that's the Niles location, they all have the same size flag. And they don't drape halfway down the flagpole, you know, when they're down, when there's no wind, because they're not that large. They're not as large as they're not nearly as large as the ones that bell tire flies.
I would like to add for clarification that the standard American flag ratio is 1 to 1.9. That's set by executive order by President Eisenhower. And that's what any federal building, any military use, they use the 1 to 1.9. But many commercial flags that are available for sale to the general public are often 1 to 1.66, I'll say, 1 and 2/3. At most, or at least maybe, is 1 to 1.5. What's depicted on the Flag Manufacturers Association of America, I don't remember for sure if all of those are 1 to 1.66, but I think most of them are.
Yeah, pretty close.
The other thing that I just would like to encourage the board to remember is that the request is for a 375 square foot flag. So he's come forward and noted that it's for a proposed American flag, but when we are looking at the zoning ordinance and regulating, we are looking at square footage area height. So, you know, if he wanted to replace the American flag with a drive and shine flag or some other flag, that would be permitted if you were to grant the variance. And
That
I
would
know that that's not what is being proposed, but if you're looking at the variance, like, it's for height, area, and setback.
That always is Mr. Schaefer's point, is we can't control the future.
You also have to remember, this continues on with the property, so even if this person moves on someday and this property is sold to someone else, that someone else could look at what he's or she has permission to do, and they could put any flag up.
I have never seen anybody fly a non-US flag on a US flagpole, ever.
I'll pose the same question. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to deny the variances.
All three?
All three.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right. There was a motion made by Mr. Ritzma to deny all three variances as requested, and seconded by Mr. Moffett. Would you call for the vote, please?
Christine Deutscher.
Can I clarify? So if I say no,
If you say yes,
Yes.
you are voting to deny. If you say no, you are saying you don't want to deny.
okay, no.
Robert Hawley.
No.
James Moffett.
Yes.
Donnie Ritzma.
Yes.
Sydney Schaefer.
I'm gonna go no.
DJ
Avenue.
Tavernier.
Tavernier. Man, this is hard.
That's why we get paid the bid bucks, which is 0.
I'm gonna say no.
Joe Velman.
Yes, based on the testimony presented here today, the error board is on.
That motion failed.
That motion failed.
Yeah.
So you can't say what you're saying. You have to try again.
No,
It wasn't denied. The motion failed.
it's 4-3.
It was 4-3 against a motion to deny.
4 people voted no.
So it's still alive.
Well, I voted no. I only had 3 as no.
Christine Deutscher, Robert Hawley, Sydney Schaefer, and DJ Tavernier all voted no to the motion as presented.
Man, I was confused. Sorry. All right.
That's because I took so long.
Meaning we like pieces of it, but we don't like the whole
All right,
pie.
I'll entertain a motion. I'll put it back out
Come
there
up with
again.
something.
I wrote that down wrong, apparently.
So which is more important to you? Is it the size of the flag or the height of the flagpole?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
I would say probably the size of the flag. I just think our flag is so majestic and beautiful. I think you small it up, it appears, especially with the signs that are nearby, it just looks like so small relative to them. I have seen flags flown that big on a shorter pole. It's probably not as pretty, but I've seen it flown, and it still looks prettier than a smaller flag. So if you are supportive of the shorter pole, the larger flag, I would prefer that than a taller pole and a smaller flag.
I like the idea of a larger flag. I don't like it that close to the road.
That's where I'm at, too. It's a setback.
So what if I say I would take the 60-foot pole, and so Ms. Wiles, would that mean that I would have to set back an extra 20 foot if I keep the 60-foot elevation?
That would still be, require variance, but we could reduce the setback request from 10 to 20, correct? Because that would be less than he's asking for currently, right?
Yes, that would reduce the nonconformity.
Correct. Because he's asking for it to be further away from the road than it's currently.
I would pull it back as far as I can in that landscape area. I would pull it right to the edge of that landscape area.
Just as a matter of clarification, I just want to remind everyone that when you're thinking about how tall a pole is compared to a flag, think about it's the length of the flag. If it's lying limp, is how far down it'll be. And if you have a flag at half mast, if there's a national tragedy or someone dies or whatever, you have to think, what is half the height of the flag? And then you have to say, okay, now if the flag was laying limp, how far down does it reach?
Yeah, it's like when you buy a TV and it's a 65-inch, that's a diagonal. That's what you have to figure out is what's the diagonal down, so.
So if it's 25 foot per se out, it's gonna hang down 25 feet on the 60-foot pole. So if you shorten the pole, you gotta make the flag smaller. Same thing you're saying.
All right.
Yeah, it would look out of place.
Which is what I was trying to ask. Can you just go smaller?
I mean, the other option would be you suggested that I place it inside that green space that's on the south side. That would mean I would have to move one of the lights off of that. Would that be acceptable? I have to talk to our, I guess if you say yes to that, I'll work around that.
So you're saying on the C-101 final site plan that you said that the green space all the way to the south side of the property or the one that's right next to the building, the little area
The
there?
one all the way to the south side of the property.
Okay. So you'd push it to the south side further back.
Correct.
Is there gonna be a side setback variance required then if that's pushed down to that south side?
I would need to verify that. Let me look at the language. Excuse me.
That would make more sense too.
The required yard above shall be increased by 2 feet in width for each foot of building height over 40 feet.
So regardless, it would require a variance there as
Yeah,
well
so you
too.
wouldn't be able to put it there either.
For every foot in excess of 40 feet, it would need to be set back 2 additional feet.
I think what we're asking at this point is if you did want to entertain a movement like that, it would be nice to come up with a revised site plan.
As we've done for other petitions, where we bring it back and it's cleaner.
It may also necessitate a re-advertisement if you're changing the setback from a front to a
That was my
side.
concern. I mean, so Mr. Tarani, what they're saying, if the proposal you just made potentially requires us to re-advertise this and it requires us to have a new site plan to be able to envision it because you still have to meet the setbacks regardless of wherever you put the flagpole since it's oversized as the request. If you'd like, we can table this so you can talk to staff and revisit this a little bit and give us a better site plan, or would you like to go ahead with what your petition is as read and see if we can come up with a proposal from the group here?
I would be happy to do whatever you recommend, as long as I really think that it's going to be beautiful to put it there as proposed anywhere, honestly, as long as it's not going to interfere with the pole or some other issues, whether it's a setback issue or whatever. That would not be, so my preference would be if it has to be tabled for me to do something else, work on this with the staff and come up with an alternate location for it with, given the same size, I would be happy to do that.
So Brittany, like Ms. Dozier was asking, if she was to say that it has to be 30 feet instead of the 10, can that be the motion? She can grant this, and then say it has to be this?
I would prefer to table it. I'd like to see another site plan.
I'm not averse to that.
I
All right.
would be in favor of that too.
There is a motion to table this until the September meeting. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. I can do that because they're all in person.
Yes.
Mr. Tarani, we have tabled this for next month. We would love if you got with staff and found a reasonable accommodation for this with a site plan that tells us where this is exactly going to be. And we'll see you for a third month in a row next month.
And
I so appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
if it's different enough that it does require re-advertising, there will be a new public hearing.
Yeah, so if the site plan changes enough, there may have to be a reissuance out to the public, and that may delay it another month, but we'll work with you on that as much as we can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, but if it
Yeah, no, I
changes,
understand.
yeah, but they did do one,
Okay. It's so long ago.
All right.
Number 4.
like 4 motions ago, yes.
Can we have the reading of petition number 4, please?
Location is 17101 Berry Knoll Way. The owner is Ethan McGowan and Catherine Woolard. Requested action is a special use to allow a gun shop, gunsmith shop. The zoning is R Single Family District.
That's right.
Okay. So you see this is in the Knollwood subdivision. This is Knollwood West. Along the northern edge of this property is the state line, so that's Michigan on the north side of that screen. This is a special use request, so this is where the board will make a recommendation to the county council, who will then hold a second public hearing in about a month, and then listen to additional public comment and make the ultimate decision. So we're just making a recommendation at this point. A special use permit has 4 criteria found in state law, and that's included in the staff report, which I'll get to. In addition, the ordinance also lays out several criteria which are outlined in this report as well. Staff has reviewed all of the criteria in the state law as well as the criteria in the ordinance. And similar to the situation that we found recently on Pine Hollow, which had a similar request, staff is recommending that a use that is a bit commercial in nature like this in a residential area is most appropriate if it is following the same type of rules that a home occupation would have. So staff is recommending that the home occupation rules be added as a written commitment for this if it were to be approved. So flipping past the report part and getting into the criteria found in state law, we did look at if this was within 200 feet of a school or a child care center or a child ministry, which is another one of the core requirements. We didn't find any present. And I did want to add a few other notes. In addition to our regulations, there are federal regulations which we do stay in contact with the federal authorities that regulate this. So they also are another review agency. And I want to note that I passed out to everyone's spot a stack of letters and petitions and copy of the restrictive covenants for this homeowner association. In addition to what was emailed out earlier, there was 2 additional letters which were on the top of the stack, which we received today. And I also wanted to note that similar to how there's federal regulations, state regulations, and our local regulations, there's also the homeowner association regulations, which the homeowner association is responsible for managing their own requirements, and whatever they wish to manage in that regard is up to them. But that does not change the criteria found in state law that manage how the decision needs to work for this level. So I just wanted to note that for the record. So in reviewing the comprehensive plan, this area is targeted for residential growth. And if you have the home occupation development standards imposed in this situation, then that would stay compliant with the comprehensive plan. And another criteria is the proposed use will be consistent with the character in the district in which it's located. And again, staff does point to having written commitments to keep that residential feel and not have the commercial use become too burdensome or too large for the property. And then additionally, the proposed special use will not injure or adversely affect the use of the adjacent area or property values. And again, we do refer back to the home occupation development standards for that as well. And then that just really leaves the real core to public health, safety, comfort, community moral standards, convenience, and general welfare. And again, the special development standards are for the safety and general welfare. The standard is if there's any K-12 school, childcare center, or childcare ministry within 200 feet, then this would be ruled as not being safe or within the general welfare. We did not find that there was a childcare facility or childcare ministry or K-12 school in that location. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to add, Abby, or?
If there's any questions in terms of the scale of the business and what exactly is being proposed, I would encourage you to ask the petitioner during that, his portion of the presentation.
Any questions from the board for staff? All right. Is the petitioner here and available or on Zoom?
Yes, sir, I'm right here.
Okay. If you would, make your way to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
I would note Catherine Woolard is also on Zoom.
Oh, you have them on Zoom too? Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's at work though, so she may not be able to answer.
Gotcha.
My name is Ethan McGowan, owner, or half owner of the 17101 Berry Knoll Way address.
Is there anything you'd like to add to your petition?
Just that I'm trying to do this as a home builder and carry out the rights, responsibilities, and regulations of a firearms business in the safest and most legal manner I can, and that I do not intend on turning my home into a commercial property. The ATF allows me to sell at gun shows, which is my intent. I do not intend on selling out of my house itself. I intend on going to trade shows, gun shows, and not actually making any transfer of commodities in my home. I will not be stocking any parts beyond what a personal collection may have. I will not be manufacturing ammunition. I will not be carrying out any type of machining process beyond what hand tools are capable of. I have no intention of increasing traffic in the area, and as per the HOA rules, I can't sell commodities at my house anyway. So for me to be able to do this, I would have to be going to trade shows only. I just need, as per state and federal regulations, I need a physical address for tax, business tax, income tax, and state sales tax purposes, and I need a physical address to obtain the ATF federal firearms license. A P.O. box nor a registered delivery box such as a UPS store will count. It has got to be a physical address with someone present. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you've got.
So you're not going to modify your home in any way? You're going to have some type of safe that's going to be securing these weapons while there's your home?
That's correct. There's a very large 30 firearm safe at Midwest I was looking to purchase, should I be approved.
Because as part of your petition, and part of what Ryan brought up with the staff comments was there's some conditions that we've proposed previously. Are you accepting those conditions that you can have no more than one person at your house ever to purchase a firearm or anything like that?
Correct. Yeah, he had provided those to me, and I saw no reason that would be detrimental to what I was trying to do.
And you're not going to be holding ammunition there more than your personal uses for? You won't be reselling ammunition?
That's correct. If I do, it'll be pickup on the way from a supplier to a gun show. It will not be stored at my house.
Is this your sole employment?
No, sir. This is a side project. I'm a hobbyist, But as per ATF regulations, I'm only allowed as a home builder to sell a certain number of firearms through private sales per year. And as a private citizen, I cannot perform background checks. So I cannot, in good faith, sell firearms to coworkers or friends or neighbors without doing a background check, and without being a licensed firearms dealer, I can't perform federal background checks. This is simply a way to try to make sure that I'm staying compliant within state, local, and federal law. Now, should this take off to the point where it would become my sole employment, I will purchase a commercial property at that time. I have no intention of trying to make this my sole income source unless an opportunity arises to purchase a commercial property for that express purpose. But that's not what this is to do. I'm a hobbyist. I'm a home builder. I am just trying to do this as a way to exercise the rights that I've been given as an American citizen. I simply want to share my passion and my expertise with those around me, and anyone who's willing to come to me and do so in a safe and legal manner. That's all I'm trying to do.
How many shows would you say you participate in a year?
I'd be hoping to participate in at least 10. I've been to 5 or 6, but I can't go as a vendor without an FFL.
How many guns do you think you have right now? You don't have to answer, just an exact amount, but
7 or 8
already in the house.
that are in my name.
So
yes.
you're looking at buying a safe that's only gonna hold 30
I have a safe for my personal stuff. I would have a separate one for business
for
purposes.
30.
But yeah.
And how many
again,
guns do you normally sell at a show?
If I was selling at a show, because I haven't been, I can't sell without an FFL. If I was selling, I'd be hoping to sell maybe 2 or 3. If it ends up being more than that, then again, I'll pursue a commercial property.
2 or 3 guns at each show?
Correct.
And these, you're building these yourself?
Correct. Mainly from pre-manufactured parts, I'm just doing the assembly. If there's any light machining required, like shimming or sanding to make parts fit together better, great. I'm not casting, I'm not forging, I'm not doing anodizing, I'm not doing anything that requires heavy industrial equipment. I'm only, whatever machining I would be doing would be with equipment that I could go down Menards and purchase, like drill presses and routers and screwdrivers, that kind of stuff. Nothing that any other hobbyist that does woodworking or metalworking or any kind of, maybe even running an Etsy store wouldn't possibly have on hand.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Of course, thank you.
With that, the public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor
I
of-
believe, I apologize. Catherine Woolard, the other homeowner, is wishing to speak.
I'm sorry, Catherine. Go right ahead.
Hi, sorry. I would like to add to what Ethan said. We moved in, I believe, October, and unfortunately, we haven't had the opportunity to meet many of our neighbors, although we would absolutely love to. We want to reiterate so much that this is not a storefront at all. We do not want to increase the traffic in the neighborhood. We love seeing everyone go by. We love waving at the walkers and the joggers and the strollers, and we would not want to impact anyone with this operation whatsoever. There have been some concerns online about the nature of the business and the amount of people that will bring to the neighborhood. And when the vast majority have found out that it is solely for tax purposes and there will be no storefront and we intend to keep this as our home rather than as a business headquarters, people have been generally positive. In the materials that you have in front of you from homeowners, unfortunately, this information was not relayed to them when they heard about the proposed variance. And I know a lot of the complaints are concerns about increase in traffic and the safety of kids in the neighborhood when they're walking around being hit by extra cars. And that is something that we would want to avoid. So again, this is very much not a storefront. If we could afford it, We would love to rent a storefront and do in-person sales at a commercial location. As such, we don't want to violate our covenants and agreements, which state that we cannot sell out of our house. So that is not what we will be doing. They will be off location at gun shows, and Ethan is trying to get the FFL through the ATF, which requires this in order to be incredibly legal and above board with all of this. So we ask your consideration and ask you to take into account that this will not be a storefront in any way, shape, or form. And this is not a big volume operation by any means. We're not Midwest. It'd be nice, but we're not Midwest. So thank you for your time.
I have a question for you, Catherine. This is Christine Deutscher. Do you all have anyone else who lives with you in the house, or is it just you and Ethan?
No, just the two of us and 3 cats.
Okay,
Yeah, no children.
thanks.
Something that just kind of popped in my mind, and maybe Mr. McGowan would be better answering this potentially, but, so the way I understand this is your goal is to purchase the components needed to build somewhat custom firearms potentially, and then resell them at a gun show, not out of your home, but you have to have the FFL to be able to get the part shipped to your home, and you have to have these special exemptions and all these other things in order to get the FFL.
Correct.
Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct, sir. You have it exact.
Okay. That makes sense to everybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Of course.
It's a lot of hoops. We're just trying to make sure we don't trip.
Bear with me, I'm counting for a second.
I did too.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. That was easy. Okay. All right. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? If you recall, we will first take everyone that's in the gallery here with us, and then anyone online that would like to speak in opposition to this petition, please raise your hand, and we will get to you after the internal public portion is done. If you would like to talk against this, please make your way up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please.
David Lang, 17530 Bending Oaks Court. I am the treasurer of the Knollwood West Homeowners Association, and I'm speaking for our board, who are present here along with a number of residents, and also a number online. Thank you for attending. This home is in Knollwood West on lot number 126, which is the very eastern border of our subdivision, and our next door neighbor, Knollwood, butts right up to it, as you've noted here. We have joined our neighborhood associations together to oppose this special permit. Yesterday, Knollwood West and Knollwood supplied this board with a declaration of our opposition, along with the covenants of both of our HOAs, details of our board voting to oppose this special use permit, and also declaring this a nuisance in the neighborhood, which violates Covenant Section 10. We also attached about 150 signatures. We are now up to 340 signatures between our two subdivisions. We only have less than 700 people total. So we have an overwhelming majority against this usage. Tim Woods, president of Knollwood, will continue our presentation with more details on the legal sides of it. Tim, go ahead, please.
My name is Tim Woods, and I live in the Knollwood subdivision at 50800 Old Lantern Trail. I'm here as a resident of that subdivision, as well as the president of our homeowners association, and I'm the lad that prepared the very short legal brief, trying to set out what the ordinance requires and what the restrictive covenants are and where the violations are with regard to this particular request. I'm here in opposition to the request for special use. and ask this body to give it an unfavorable recommendation. To act otherwise would violate the Knollwood West Restrictive Covenants, the St. Joseph County zoning ordinance, and Indiana Supreme Court law. All the lots in the Knollwood West subdivision are subject to restrictive covenants. What are restrictive covenants? According to the Indiana Supreme Court, they are an express contract between grantor and grantee that restrains the grantee's use of land. They maintain or enhance the value of land, and they are clothed with a very strong presumption of validity. The zoning ordinance cannot abrogate the use of the land or the covenants. I'm sorry, the covenants, cannot abrogate the covenants. That's ordinance section 154.002, paren capital letter C. The word abrogate is special. It means to abolish by authoritative action, to annul or nullify. The very zoning ordinance says it cannot do that. The relevant restrictive covenants in this particular case are paragraph 10 of the Knollwood West covenants, and that's titled nuisance, and home occupation, which is paragraph 10. And no activity is allowed on a lot which may become an annoyance or nuisance as determined by the Knollwood Homeowners Board. The Knollwood West, it should be West Board. The Knollwood West Board has unanimously determined that a gun shop / gunsmith shop would constitute an annoyance and a nuisance. In addition, 147 Knollwood West homeowners and 178 Knollwood homeowners have signed a document opposing the petition. That's a total of 325 residents in either of the subdivisions that are involved. Paragraph 3B of the Knollwood West covenants allow for home occupations, but there are conditions. Among others, no commodity can be sold upon the premises, and no mechanical or electric equipment can be used. According to the petition, contrary to what was represented at this hearing just a moment ago, the special use petitioners intend to sell hunting and sporting arms and accessories at the home. It's in writing in the materials that were submitted by the petitioners. Customers will come to the home to buy guns or have their guns modified. And there will be commercial vehicles delivering equipment and tooling, not in large amounts, but commercial vehicles delivering equipment and tooling. This information was gleaned from the petition for special use information, paragraphs 1 and 2, little letter A, and project information. That, as specified in the petition, the activity clearly violates paragraphs 10 and 3B of the Knollwood West Protective Covenants. And one of my neighbors whispered into my ear shortly before I came up here and said, if you do gunsmithing, you probably might be test firing the weapon in your basement or wherever you're doing the gunsmithing. Giving the petition a favorable recommendation in whole or part would violate the restrictive covenants, the zoning ordinance, and the Indiana Supreme Court case law. I've cited the case in the brief that I prepared, and it's only 3 pages, and it's part of your materials. And I am asking on behalf of myself and as the president of our Knollwood Homeowners Association that you give the petition an unfavorable recommendation. Thank you.
One question for you, sir.
Yes.
So according to I believe this is what you're referring to is these 3 pages of what you guys came up with from your meeting where you were against this, correct?
I'm not the Knollwood West representative. It's The Knollwood West Board determined unanimously that the gun shop or gunsmith shop would constitute an annoyance.
Oh, I'm sorry, see right here, you got Mr. Lang, that's my fault, I apologize.
The first speaker.
Never mind, okay.
It was the first speaker, yes.
Thank you,
Right.
sir. Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to, please come forward.
My name is Deborah Pritchard, and I live at 50615 Ridgemore Way in Granger, Indiana. Lived there for 16 years now. Bob, thank you very much. I have been a residential realtor for 30 years, and in the last 16 years, and as of now, I'm still employed with RE/MAX 100. And I understand all that legal part, but I also feel like I want to share a little bit of a realtor's perspective as well as a neighbor and walking by that home for the last 16 years. We chose to live in Knollwood for that sense of community and family, and we've always chosen homeowners associations, partially because the covenants and restrictions are a way of maintaining the neighborhood in an acceptable condition for the general good of all the residents residing in the community. And as a realtor, we have, many times people will say, I don't want to live in an HOA because I don't want those restrictions, I don't want to pay the fee, whatever. So I can understand, and in our contracts, we also have a paragraph that gives the opportunity for new buyers to review them, and if they don't like what is being said, or for whatever reason, they get their money back. So these people were allowed to look at those covenants and restrictions and had that opportunity, because there are many areas, Michigan Street, you can live in a home and also have your own, any kind of a store you'd want. Mishawaka Avenue, there are many places, but 10 months ago, they chose to be in a residential community. And then, oh, by the way, now I think might be a good time to start a gunsmith or a gun store. It just doesn't even make sense when you've got kids riding bikes, buses stopping. There's still going to be some traffic, and who is going to monitor that one person that's going to walk in and he's going to say, oh, well, you can't come in now. You have to wait out in the street until I'm done with my one client that's here. I think it's just too open-ended for that type of a business. I would be here even if it was a barber shop, because this is not a community where you're expecting to find anything like that. Home businesses are being done all the time. I'm a realtor, I work out of my house. So it's not like, but you're not bringing people in, and the traffic starts to come more and more. And that leads me to my professional opinion as a realtor. We are held to a higher standard to the public. And we have to acknowledge if there's going to be a highway built behind the house that you're thinking of buying, but it's not being started now, we have to let them know this is something that's going to happen. And I think of showing houses in this neighborhood and saying, this is a residential neighborhood, but we do have one business at 17101 that's a gun store. I mean, anyone would pause for something like that and say, wait a minute. I think potentially it could be a problem in selling homes in the community, and I also think property values could also be affected by it. So for these reasons, I personally oppose this special use of the home.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Just two quick questions for you while you're there.
Yes.
You brought up the fact of who's going to monitor the compliance with the stipulations, because in the stipulations, I'm sure probably none of you have been aware of, there's no more than one person allowed at the house.
Correct.
Who monitors that now in the neighborhood?
No one. But I don't know of any other special use that's being requested in Knollwood.
Well, There isn't. This is the only type of home-based business that requires a special use. So you made the point yourself that you're really work out of your home. There might be people that are on Etsy or Pinterest that also manufacture things in their homes, which is technically against the HOA covenants. Who monitors that?
No one would know that.
Okay.
No one would know that.
And then you said as a realtor, you would feel compelled to tell people that there was a gunsmith in your neighborhood. How would they know unless you told them?
Because that's sort of our duty to tell people of issues that might be of concern to them for maybe safety reasons, for the value of their home.
All right, I'm gonna go on a real tangent here, but do you monitor the child sex offender list and tell people that as well too?
Yes, we do.
Then, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Perfect. That's why I wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to? Please come forward. You can all form a line if you'd like, and so we know who's all gonna be coming in there. Just two things. First, everyone keeps talking about the HOA. Randy, can you clarify, the HOA has no bearing on this hearing at all, correct?
You guys can take into account that the HOA's position is that it would be detrimental to the neighborhood and general welfare. Your decision is whether under the standards of the zoning ordinance, they meet the requirements for a special use in this situation. Your decision will not cause, if the covenants do prohibit this use, your decision to favorably recommend to the council, and then if the council were to decide to grant the special use, would not cause those covenants to disappear.
They still have recourse under their covenants regardless of whatever decision.
They are dealing with their own contractual obligations that they have the ability to enforce or not enforce on their own, regardless of what happens at the county level on this. A special use permit being granted for this does not erase whatever the covenants require.
Correct. The other thing, if you're here, and we have verified, I verified well over 200 people in opposition to. There was a change.org petition also put on here. If you sign that, it's not valid because it doesn't have addresses on it. So unfortunately, for anything on the change.org petition, it's not tantamount to this hearing. So all the ones where everyone put their names and addresses on, those are perfectly fine, but the change.org isn't admissible to us, unfortunately. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Randy Stukel. I live at 17189 Berry Knoll Way. Actually, probably 2 or 3 houses from the residents being shown. I have met Ethan. I find him to be a stand-up guy. When they moved into our neighborhood in October, they did a wonderful job renovating the home, which needed it. They dramatically appreciated the home's value, which we all do appreciate in the neighborhood. Personally speaking, I used to have a home business as well, and I am familiar with what his request is by having a residence or an address listed for licensing. I was a home inspector, and as a state requirement, you are required to have a listing address as your residence. So that is public record. So if you list an address as a business, it is public record. And I would caution Ethan, for his own safety, that with that published address, unwanted or unscheduled events may occur at that residence. I can personally speak with having a home business with a listed address that may and potentially occur. For his own health and safety, I would recommend you may reconsider that, because as a homeowner and starting in a business, optimizing your costs is certainly a high priority. Renting or leasing an extension outside of your home to perpetuate that business is a cost you tend to avoid. Therefore, I can understand why you'd like to have it at this as his own residence, to keep the costs down. But it also does open yourself up to potential review publicly by listing your address. Therefore, as a resident, of Knollwood West, having that extra traffic come into the neighborhood is not acceptable in my opinion. It subjects gun purchases or modified guns or modified hunting equipment, and having that same customer leaving and reviewing the neighborhood as they drive out. That's not the kind of traffic I'd like to raise a family in. So health and safety is my main concern with this potential, as well as Ethan. Because again, I have no animosity against Ethan, and I would also like to have him maybe consider that by listing a public address as a business.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to?
Hi, my name is Jane Ralzer, and I'm at 50663 Ridgemore Way in Granger. I live probably 6 houses from Ethan, doing in the Knollwood area. So a lot of what, I also am an established realtor. A lot of what Deb has gone over, I don't need to address again. However, I do want to say that although there is not a K through 12 or whatever the other areas are that was listed that you cannot have a business that close to, it is important to understand that this house backs up to the Knollwood Country Club on the 12th hole, where there are constantly kids out there playing with their parents, playing on teams, or being in tournaments. So that may be in somewhat of a gray area, but it is important to understand that it's not just neighborhood children that we're speaking of. It is children who are within feet of this backyard playing on the Knollwood golf course. The other question that I have is I'm a little confused by the fact that it is not going to, we've all agreed that no commodities can be purchased out of the house. However, there's been something that you said that it allowed one house to come and purchase a gun, which is clearly a commodity, at a time. Isn't that selling a commodity out of your home? I'm
Correct.
lost.
Our stipulation, just to clarify, our stipulation was the suggestion from the staff here on the board would be, if it were to pass, that no more than one car could be there to purchase anything. His stipulation is he will not be selling any commodities out of the house. So they differ, correct, but what he is stipulating is he will not be selling any commodities out of the house.
Okay, and yet, as Ethan stood here, and I've never met him, I have absolutely nothing against him, but as you asked that question, he agreed to that there would only be one car at a time to purchase or pick up a commodity. Those are not the same thing. Either it is something that is being stored at the residential house in order to be sold off property 100%, or it is what you put out as one car per purchase, and he agreed that yes, he would abide by that. That is not acceptable in the covenants and conditions, restrictions that he and, I'm sorry, I don't remember the other owner's name, but they signed that less than 10 months ago, that they would abide by the CC&Rs of the Homeowners Association in the Knollwood properties. And that is in all the Knollwood properties. That's part of the CC&R. So these two things don't seem to be lining up in my opinion, and I am in complete agreement with Deb that property values historically tend to decline when multi-use takes place in a neighborhood that is meant to be single-family residence. So the Knollwood properties were all built around years ago, this 36-hole golf course, and it's still a prime focus for us where children are at all times playing, and they would be within feet of this location. Also, there is currently an outbuilding being built. I have no idea if it has been approved by their association or not, their architectural control committee, but that is being built currently. So I do not know if even what is being proposed by him is going to take place solely within his dwelling, or if that will be part of what is to be done with this transaction that he is trying to put through. Those are my comments.
Okay.
Any
And
questions?
we'll bring him back up to address those two comments, because we laid out, those are the minimum,
Yes.
structures that we say, he can put into record that he will not allow that, and that would be what is the testimony then. And then we can have him address what may be going on in the outbuilding if it's being built per code and ordinances, there's nothing that can be done by this board on that particular subject.
And I'm not asking that that be done. I'm asking to know that that has been approved and plans have gone through the Architectural Control Committee and what that particular building will be for. And also, again, to make clear to you that there are children on the golf course every single playable day, in teams, with families, and in tournaments.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wish to speak in favor, or I'm sorry, in opposition to?
This may not be needed, but I'm going to
We
go
need your
ahead
name
with
and
it.
address, please, sir.
My name is Robert Hall.
Thank you.
I've lived in Knollwood on Pine Ridge Drive since 1974. I'm sympathetic with the gentleman who's trying to do this. I've thought about it quite a bit. There are just too many issues for this property. It's the wrong place for what he wants to do. You can't control it. You'll open up a can of worms for other kinds of things. Just think about this. I use the gunsmith. I have guns. I hunt. I sport shoot. I'm an NRA member. I am sympathetic, but this place is the wrong place for what he wants because of too many issues. And I ask you to think about that. Try to control a situation. He wants to make a gun out of parts. A lot of people do that. He's going to make a gun, and he's going to take it to a trade show. Something's going to happen. It's going to come up. Where did that gun come from? Because they check backwards. And if it comes back and it came from a home in Knollwood, I think that they said, well, how did that happen? Like I say, and I'm not going to go to everything I wrote down. It's not necessary. I wasn't going to speak. But I want you to know that part of what I think. I'm for him to be successful in his chosen craft. It takes a lot of work to become a gunsmith. And I've used several of them. It takes a lot of work to do what he wants to do. And I hope that he will rescind what he wants to do, save some money, and get an off-premise location to do what he wants to do. And I ask for you to consider what I said in the light I've said it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can
Appreciate
we get
it.
your home address, sir?
Sir, can we get your home address real quick,
Bob,
please?
we need your address.
50866 Pine Ridge Drive.
Everybody get that?
50866 Pine Ridge Drive.
You got it. Anyone else wish to speak in opposition to?
Hi, I'm Roseanne McGuire. I live at 17022 Hampton Drive in Knollwood proper. And my only comment is that the information that was provided on this agenda sheet and in the letter that was circulated in Knollwood and Knollwood West states that this gentleman is asking for a gun shop and a gunsmith shop. That's not what he's claiming here today, and that's quite different. And what we're here to determine is the original intent. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else in the gallery that would wish to speak in opposition to?
Just as a matter of clarification, the zoning ordinance a lot of times tries to fit a square peg in a round hole of sorts. We have a classification of gun shop, gunsmith shop, which is the special use, so that's what it gets classified as. And just want to make sure that that's clear for everyone.
Yeah, it's a
here.
very ambiguous statement, unfortunately, when it comes to something like that, so. Just like when we, in a later petition, it's gonna come up that someone wants to do a subdivision. When you think of a subdivision, that's thousands of houses. When it's really taking 1 acre out of 20, that's considered a subdivision. So how we have to state things is definitely not always accurate. It appears we have some questions on the chat. Would you like to read them off, please?
Sure. And this. Okay. So Pam Ratowski, let me find the address here because it was further down, at 50765 Tarrington Way, Granger, has asked if the advertising or business cards will have the home address listed, and if so, could this bring unwanted people to the location without an appointment?
We'll have the petitioner come back up and address that question, Mrs. Ratowski.
Yep. Ching Han, who lives at 16525 Berry Knoll Way, did not wish to speak in person, but does make the comment that he opposes the petition.
Okay.
Lee Holland from 50545 Mercury Drive in Granger has stated, very concerned that property values will negatively impact resale values because of the legal disclosures that a variance of a gun license exists in the area and the property. Additionally, the variance potentially creates the confusion of future homeowners would be able to explain that only a gun license was approved and not a business. The variance does not make that distinction between a license and or business.
Correct.
Robert Menenti at 50691 Lincroft Lane has stated, petitioners make a lot of promises for today. What happens if they change their minds after the petition is granted? What other types of businesses can follow if this petition is granted?
I think we can answer that this only follows with anyone that has an FFL. It does not follow the property in this case, because it's a special exemption for that use for that person only. Correct?
No.
No?
You can set that as a condition that it would expire upon the selling of the property, but as it stands, just by itself, it would stay with the property, but if anybody wanted to take advantage of it later, they would have to get the FFL or they'd be in violation.
Right,
of
they'd have to get the
federal law.
FFL. So, yeah, got it. Okay.
Did you lose your microphone?
What other,
Oh, sorry. My microphone got stolen.
Well, I would think that maybe they couldn't hear you.
Yeah, the special use itself. Well, I think it's being amplified, isn't it?
No, you can't hear you.
you have to actually,
Be up on it.
yeah, it's not an omnidirectional mic. You're gonna have to like be right up into it like you're,
Yeah, like you're getting right into it. Like this close.
Yeah, this is as close as I'm getting.
That's better. That's better. You're good.
Yeah, the special use stays with the property unless you specifically said as a condition that it expires on the sale or some other event.
Okay.
If it were to be purchased by someone who did not also have the federal firearms license, they wouldn't really be able to make use of it in any way
Not
unless
legally.
they got that.
Right.
they'd be in violation of the federal law if they did that. I mean, I suppose they could, but they'd get in big trouble if they got caught.
Okay. Thank you.
What other types of businesses can follow if this petition is granted? From the same person asked that.
Basically, you could do the same thing if the person that bought the house chose to go get an FFL, then they would be able to also have a gunsmithing shop at the house.
Michael Schultz, 50614 Galaxy Drive. Can the information be provided to residents who signed the petition please be read or posted? I'm not quite sure. Is this person asking that the names of everybody be read?
I would guess that, I mean, of the majority of the petition was basically that we, the undersigns, individually affirm under penalties for perjury that we are a homeowner in the Knollwood subdivision and oppose the petition. And that was over 172 signatures on that particular petition. Other ones were just letters of dissension, or opposition, I should say, that were individually written that we can provide you copies of, but I'm not sure we can read those into the minutes at this time.
But the petition, it was a private endeavor, and so I don't believe there was any information from this board or your office.
No,
that
yeah, this was a private
provided.
individual that went around and got this petition.
So
Unless the resident is asking for the petition as stated on the application to be read.
the information provided to the residents who signed the petition.
Or maybe he's asking, how is it phrased to get the person to when they went up to
So
sign it?
in allowing public comment, we can allow, we should allow folks on Zoom to comment, correct?
Yeah, we will.
So
We're just reading those at the moment.
And perhaps that person could clarify what he or she is asking.
They just did, they said, how is it phrased?
How was what phrased?
So how was it asked, how was it portrayed to them? Is this, he's just gonna open up a gun shop, or is
We don't
it,
know.
this is what he wants to do? Right.
I mean, I'm sure they saw this, and that's what we don't know.
That was one of my questions.
I don't even know who actually got this petition going. This just showed up to us, correct?
So for the folks online, under the, on the sjcindiana.com webpage, there's an agenda center. There is a list of meetings where you can access the meeting packets. The meeting packet contains the application submitted by the petitioner.
No, I think he's asking, how was the petition
Yeah.
portrayed to the homeowners?
With everyone-
So, like me coming to your house saying,
Okay.
so-and-so wants to open a gun shop, do you, yes or no?
Are you opposed to that?
Yeah, I think that's what that's how I take it.
And that we don't,
Right.
we don't know.
Unless the person that did this, I mean.
Unless the person who did it was
The
the
person
guy
that did it
applying
is
it.
here.
We might be able to get that in. We'll get through these comments the rest of the way, then we'll open it up to anyone that wants to raise their hand and talk on the.
Robert Menenti from Lincroft Lane continues, there seems to be no room for a parking lot for parking if a group shows up. And is he intending to make pistols that can pass through metal detectors undetected?
We will ask the petitioner that when he comes back up.
Lyndon and Julia Escuna, 16970 Woodshire Court. Aren't the, quote, hoops that you have to jump through precisely the reason that the ATF institutes these rules? So people need to buy, rent commercial property for their businesses, not start up in a residential community where children and families are. Donald Crafton, 17590 Green Oaks Court, Granger. I do not question our neighbors' good intentions, but please note that gun shows provide a major loophole to universal background checking and are primarily responsible for the flow of unregulated firearms in our community and state. Granting this special use variance would provide a precedent that other sellers might exploit, perhaps even by establishing residents in the neighborhood specifically to have access to the exemptions. Their intentions may not be as honorable as our neighbors. I'm against granting the variance. Nancy Huffman, 50577 Woodbury Way. My husband and I are adamantly against the petition. We bought in this subdivision because it had an HOA and was zoned single home. There are many children and families that walk and play in this neighborhood. Robert Menenti, Again, Lincroft Lane, just to clarify, I'm asking what other types of businesses can be started in the subdivision if this petition is granted.
None, if I'm not correct, right? We're giving him access to start
I mean, he would be able to sell firearms in his home, subject to the written commitments that,
right.
if you were to include those.
With this particular exemption, no, nothing else could be started in that home except for the selling of firearms.
And that's aside from any restrictions that the covenants may
Yeah.
or may not have in that the HOA would be interested in enforcing.
Correct.
Susan Elmer, 17590 Green Oaks Court. Oh, that seems to be a comment to a previous comment.
Okay, that looks like.
There's a continuation from from one other person, but he's yet to provide his name and address, so.
Yeah, there seems to be an argument sprung up there.
Yeah, so if you have comments that you would like the board to take into account, we need your full name and address for the record, so we can read it into the record.
All right, looks like we just got it. Mark Manchek, 51093 Woodcliff Court in Granger. I must question whether there is as much opposition to a hair salon that is currently in existence in Knollwood. The petitioner has indicated that he will not be conducting commerce out of his home. Perhaps he needs to amend his petition, but his intentions seem to be to have a residence so that he may comply with background check requirements at gun shows. And regarding increased traffic and in terms of selling commodities, how does this differ from a garage sale?
Thank you, Ms. Manchik. All right, I don't see any other comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak that is currently on the Zoom side of the call? Please raise your hand.
That Susan person, she seems like she popped back up again.
Oh, yes, Susan did write, Susan Elmer, 17590 Green Oaks Court, concerned about the disparity between what the petitioner submitted and what is being promised today. Robert Menenti then also, just to clarify, I'm asking what other types of petitions for businesses at other residents can be started in the subdivisions if the petition is granted.
None. This special exemption only deals with this one address. Any other business at home would have to go through their own licensing process.
We do have two people whose hands are raised. Mary Tarsha, I'm asking to unmute.
Mary Tarsha, do you have anything to comment on?
Yes, thank you. My name is Mary Tarsha. I'm at 50581 Tarrington Way, Granger, 46530. Just a few houses away from the petitioners. In the beginning, there was mentioning of checking for childcare centers and other schools that are within the vicinity. But one thing that has been overlooked are homeschoolers. So we homeschool, and so our children and other children come to our house to be homeschooled. And considering that this is a time of pandemic, many children are online, and so are at home doing school online, and it looks like we'll continue that way, possibly through the next fall, possibly spring. So I would like this to be taken into consideration and to be noted that I am against this variance.
Thank you for your input.
Okay. And Jane Bennett.
Jane
Hello,
Bennett?
my name is Jane Bennett. I'm at 50850 Tarrington Way. And I agree with many of the other comments, but I would like, because our neighborhood is a neighborhood without any sidewalks, so we don't want traffic, but those issues have been explained. But I'm concerned with an address being used and becoming public associated with guns, because, and that concern is for the petitioners as well. There's plenty of evidence that gun shops are targets for burglars, and I would not want the petitioners or anybody else in the neighborhood to be targeted because the address is associated with guns. And I do have a background as a deputy prosecuting attorney, and I know what the risks are and the realities of burglaries of homes and guns being taken and people coming and going, being targeted. And for that reason, I would just be concerned with the possibility that there could be crime, which could target the petitioners as well. As I said, I'm concerned for them as well as the rest of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else in the gallery or on Zoom that would like to speak in opposition to this petition?
We did have one more comment in the chat. Robert Menenti from Lincroft Lane replied, "Your answer states that other businesses will follow if the new petitions are submitted." So I believe he's referring to potentially a precedent, or if you're granting this, could anybody apply for any business?
Well, anybody can apply for any business.
They already
I mean,
can, I guess?
this particular special exemption only would apply to the address listed in the petition. So that's not to say that somebody on Tarrington Way couldn't come in and ask to have some other type of home-based business if it needs licensing and ask for a special exemption as well too, but it would not allow just anyone to come and do that. It would only address this particular special exemption for this particular address. Anyone else would have to come for any other type of petitions after the fact. I hope that makes sense.
Hannah Royschuk?
Hi, my name's Chana Roshak, and I live at 50619 Trails North. I did want to say that we also homeschool, and in the state of Indiana, that is legally considered a private school. I know there are numerous homeschool families who live near the property. And also I was wondering, with regards to the golf course that abuts to the property, is that technically considered a park?
I don't know. I wouldn't think so. It's a privately owned course. It's yeah, so it's privately owned property, so no, I don't think it can be any type of park. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to? By all means, come up, sir.
My name is Robert Balant. I live at 16966 Berry Knoll Way. In conjunction with what you were speaking about, as this is a one-time deal for this particular location, what it does, though, is opens the crack to anybody else wanting to open up a petition to establish whatever they might want to do, a barber shop or a shoe repair business or nail business for ladies. So once you do this and you open that crack up, you allow other people to start wanting to do the same thing. Maybe not this same kind of business, but other kinds of businesses. And so their argument's going to be, when they come before you, is that you granted this variance and you granted that variance, why can't you grant this variance? So it's just going to perpetuate, and pretty soon we're going to have a lot of different variances for different businesses throughout the neighborhood. The other thing I'd like to mention is that, as Mr. Woods has said, it's against the HOA, it's against the Indiana State Code, it's against the Supreme Court ruling, and so I strongly oppose this ordinance or this variance, and I would strongly suggest to all the board members that they strongly oppose it also.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to?
My name is Vera Prophet. I live at 506.
Ma'am, we'll need you to, we gotta have it in the microphone so you can have it on the record, please.
Okay. My name is Vera Prophet. I live at 50688 Ridgemore Way in Granger, obviously. And one of the reasons that I strongly oppose this variance is for the following reasons. I think anybody who watches the news regularly has seen the uptick in murders and shootings in the South Bend and Michiana area. To grant this variance would be like handing a drink to an alcoholic. You're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. I should think you'd want to be part of the solution.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to? Can I bring somebody back up that made a comment to ask them a question?
Yes.
You say that. Very uncertain-like.
It would be irregular, but you can
Well, that's
do it.
me. Mr. Lang, would you please step back up real quick? I just have one question about what Knollwood West established in their violation of covenants. What is the HOA currently doing to police what's currently going on in the subdivision of home-based businesses?
I mean, we don't know exactly what's going on in any given home. We can't go knock on doors and go, what do you do in your home? It's their home, it's their privacy. You know, there's no way for us to enforce this. And really, we don't have any police force. We don't have any, you know, we're just a volunteer homeowners association. You know, we try and monitor our neighborhood to make sure that, you know, trash cans aren't being left out and, you know, things that are gonna devalue our property are not being practiced by various homeowners. And, you know, but definitely this is there's an open session here, meaning this business is public knowledge. Now, it's in your record, it's in the record. If this goes to a vote before the council, obviously you've seen all the opposition.
Oh, it will. I mean, you're gonna have one more place to go after this for sure, one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, the petitions will be signed. You know, if we need to rally, I mean, I'm sure that they'll be rallying. Are you going to render every homeowners association up and down Adams Road as being worthless?
No, I'm not.
I'm just asking, you
I'm
know,
asking the
we
question as well,
kind of, you
too.
know, when you look at it, you're just going to say, we can override what these homeowners associations, then what is our value? We ask you.
I guess that's technically what we're doing. That's the beauty of the ordinance, is it allows homeowners to seek exceptions or special uses or variances from what's written due to certain circumstances. But the HOA can trump all of that because you have it in writing of what you can and can't do. So you have course of action.
But by
after that.
you granting this, are you diminishing our ability to have that?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't know.
Mr. Woods has cited the correct section of the ordinance.
I can't hear you, ma'am.
I think I'm close enough.
Now you are. You got a point right at though.
I hate this thing. Mr. Woods, in his comment, cited the correct section of the zoning ordinance when it says that these decisions can't abrogate the existence of the HOA's
So then why are
covenants.
why are you making a decision?
There's a separate tracks
Yeah.
of activity here. And the zoning ordinance says you can do X, Y, and Z, but you have to get permission A, B, and C to do it under the terms of the zoning ordinance. That's track 1. HOA covenants would be track 2, where you guys are at. And what happens here doesn't really affect what you have the ability to do under your track. They are dealing solely with, what does the ordinance say? Does the section that allows for an exception to the ordinance apply?
Right.
These are the factors we have to look at to determine that. Their decision solely has to do with the zoning ordinance. It doesn't affect the HOA or the covenants.
Yes, it does, but if they permit it, and they allow it to happen, then how are we to enforce our covenants?
The same way you would enforce it under any other
The
circumstance?
same way you do with trash cans or people running daycares that aren't licensed or anything else, yeah. Just asking the question.
Yeah, what are you currently doing if someone violates the
No,
covenants?
we have a process that is outlined, where we send out, we send a notice to that person and say, this is not allowed, and this is why it's not allowed, and please get in compliance. And most people do, and if necessary, we can take some legal action in that situation.
And you can do
But,
the same.
we will go down that route. It's an expensive route for us. Most of the people go, oh, okay. They're also wanting to keep up their neighborhood,
Nothing about this process would change that
No,
process.
but you've allowed a gun shop to come in, a retail store. This is a shop. Our rules say shops, no. Storefronts, no. You said a shop. A legal definition of a shop is where I go to purchase goods and services. Think about that. That's the
You're
legal
correct.
definition of a shop.
The way the ordinance has to read, because that's what it's in it, is not generally the best, I agree with you. The way it was listed is
Well,
not.
I mean, the
is not good.
interpretation, as you can see by most of the people that made comments here and by our community, is that we now have a gun store. Guns R Us is here. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
And just clarify what we do to try to enforce our covenants.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what you're
Yes.
doing currently.
We don't spy on people. The way we find out about what's going on is by our neighbors coming to, in my case, me, because I'm the president of the homeowners association in Knollwood subdivision. And I usually get the calls or the letters yelling at me for what's going on. What are you doing about this? We've had to deal with a church that was being conducted and I know nothing about it, and was just maybe 15 houses away from me, and I didn't know what was going on, but every Thursday night, and they bragged on Facebook, they had 65 kids in their house, parking on the street. Well, then finally the neighbors reported it to me, I had to go over and talk to the homeowners. That's one situation, and we had another that had stacks of shingles on their house for over 6 years. And they're just up on the house, and they never fixed the place. And I was not aware of that. I suddenly became aware of it. That's in litigation now. We have other people that continue to park their boats on trailers in their house, and that's specifically prohibited by the covenants. And if I don't see it, I don't know it, I can't do anything about it. Neighbors come to me and they're yelling and screaming, look what that person is doing. We get on it, we investigate it, and we try to enforce our covenants. We take them seriously.
Good. That's all I was asking.
Yeah, that's the only way we can do it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Yes.
it. All right. The public portion is now closed.
There was one more comment on the chat. Linda Nixuna writes, are we equating leaving trash cans out with starting a gun shop, gunsmith shop?
Did he leave his address?
He provided it
He asked
earlier.
a question earlier, so. No, we're not equating trash cans out with a gun shop. We're just asking what is the HOA doing currently to enforce their rules and regulations? That was the only question, and that's what was brought up by the HOA, so. All right, the public portion is now closed. Mr. McGowan, would you like to come back up and address us several of the questions that came from the public section, please?
Yes, I absolutely would. You need me to read my name into the record again?
Nope, you've already done it once.
All right.
So the first one I'd like specifically is what types of guns would you be creating with what you purchase?
Whatever's publicly available to the private civilian market. I'm not dealing in military arms. I'm not dealing in stuff that private security firms would have access to. No machine guns, no destructive devices, no rocket launchers, no grenades. Nothing that would be governed under the NFA firearms, under the National Firearms Act. So no short barrel rifles, no suppressors, no machine guns, nothing crazy. We're talking semi-automatics, bolt actions, anything that you can legally purchase as a private individual in the United States from literally any gun store or manufacturer in the world. It's just private arms, private stuff. You're talking bolt action rifles like your Remington 700, your semi-automatics like AR-15s, anything that a private individual can legally possess.
Thank you. Would you be passing out business cards that would have that address on them at the gun shows?
No. No, email and phone number only.
Is the outbuilding that you're currently constructing have anything to do with the firearms that you'd be selling?
No, it is a storage shed for a lawnmower, and there is a county building permit that has been pulled on it back in April, and the Knollwood West Architectural Committee has approved it. There's an email record. A representative of the ACC did come out to inspect it and said, yes, put it right there.
Got it. Okay. And then the subject of the conditions that were set forth from the staff about the one car or one person purchasing products at your home, it differs from what you have stated, that you would only be selling at gun shops. Would you, if the conditions were to be 0 people at your house, would that be acceptable to you? If we
Yeah,
were-
absolutely.
If we were to update the conditions?
I mean, the conditions that were provided by the staff were the county recommendations.
Correct. They were
So I
our
simply-
recommendations,
yeah.
understood,
I
yes.
simply stated at the time that, yes, I would be in compliance by the county. As a separate point, yes, I see no reason that I would not be in compliance with the HOA. No one is going to be at my house buying stuff. I will be going to gun shows to perform background checks on people in person. I will not be selling out of the house. I will not be transferring commodities. I will not be running any machines.
Sir, your comments must be directed to the board.
Address them,
Sorry,
please.
I was trying to make sure everybody could hear me.
They can't, 'cause you're not talking to the microphone.
Sorry, I forgot. But no, I will not be selling any commodities out of the house. No one will be coming to the house to pick up a firearm. That is expressly against the covenants of the HOA, which I've read about 15 times, and then were also provided to me by the staff here at the county, at the county office.
Understood. Anybody else have any other?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Which is just general information. In Indiana, are you now permitted to carry a gun with you without a concealed gun permit?
No, sir, I am not permitted to carry a gun without a concealed carry permit. I do possess one, but I am not, having an FFL and going through all this stuff does not license me to carry firearms. I have an Indiana State concealed carry license, as was granted to me almost 3 years ago by the Indiana State Police. But those two are completely separate things.
Yeah. But as far as you know, I cannot carry a gun, a concealed gun, and I don't have a permit to do that.
If I cannot,
That's illegal.
if I cannot perform a background check on you, I cannot verify whether you have the legal ability to possess a firearm or not. And if I cannot verify it, I'm not going to be selling to you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's part of the line. Without an FFL, he can't do a background check.
Well, I'm getting different answers to that question.
Gotcha. But no, you have to have a concealed carry permit to be able to conceal carry. in
Little
Indiana.
pink card.
I have some friends that he won't go out of the house without his gun.
Well, you better have a concealed
He
carry
does,
permit. Well,
he
then-
does.
Then that's perfectly acceptable.
And then the concealed carry permit does not allow you to carry within schools or government buildings or on federal transportation. It's only your own personal car, any businesses that do not expressly prohibit them, public sidewalks, public streets, your own home, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
How many times you think a week UPS or FedEx is gonna come to your house?
Well, I have a UPS store that's going to handle all of my items, so unless I'm buying something from Amazon, not at all.
Okay.
The UPS store down at Grape Road, I have a post office box for, but it's not part of this because it does not need to be on any FFL paperwork. The only thing that has got to be on the FFL paperwork is where I currently reside.
Any other questions from the board for the petitioner?
So many.
Hey, I've got all day.
I don't.
I can try to be quick.
Thank you, sir.
Of course.
Appreciate your time. Appreciates everyone's time. Thank you for having a passion about where you live. All right.
You know, I go, why don't we introduce who these people are? They don't know who these people are in front of us. Why don't we introduce them?
Staff, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why don't we introduce staff?
I mean, this is our attorney. They don't know her from Adam. I think they ought to be introduced. I'm just sharing that with you.
I don't have an issue with that at all, personally.
They can see us.
I don't know if that's allowed.
They
Randy.
forgot our
I mean,
nameplate.
there's no reason we can't do that. It's just not been common practice to
Well, I'm
introduce
just
all the staff
asking
at
if
every
what-
meeting.
You know, I mean, I'm sure they'd leave and they might say, who were those people that were talking? And we couldn't hear them.
That's a good point.
Oh, well, I will
I feel
note that when I
called
did
out.
start speaking, I did mention that I was Ryan Fellows with the Area Plan Commission staff or IPG staff. And I remember Abby mentioning who she was when she started the first
Sean's
time.
the only one that hasn't talked.
Way
Except
to go,
when he tried
Sean.
to steal my
That's the
microphone.
next agenda item is Sean's.
Sean was not a part of this agenda item,
I
so they
know,
don't care about
I
him.
was waiting for him.
We can, what I'd suggest is we can talk more about that at the end of the meeting after we get through.
We can figure that out.
And,
But it's a
yes.
good point, Bob. All right, so, that being said, any additional discussion, comments, or I'll entertain a motion, and this is a special use being sent to the county council with a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we send this to the county council with an unfavorable recommendation. And part of my thinking here is, looking at the audience, I've always prided myself on listening to people that want to bring up another point of view. And we've got a petition here that signed 100, 200, 400, whatever we got. And I just can't see going along with doing what they want to do. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it if I lived in the neighborhood, so I'm suggesting an unfavorable recommendation.
And I'll second.
We have a motion to send the special exemption to the common council with an unfavorable recommendation by Mr. Holly and seconded by Mr. Ritzma. Can we have a call for the vote, please?
If I may just quickly interject, it would be helpful if anyone wanted to mention under the four criteria under state law, if there's any particular point that they wanted to mention before you went into your vote, just sort of the record so that we added it to why you were thinking that, so that the council knew whether you felt it didn't follow the comprehensive plan or if it didn't feel like it was meeting whatever criteria, if anyone wanted to add that, that'd be helpful.
So,
So you want me to say something?
What I,
well, of the criteria, I think what you were getting at was that the approval would not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, or general welfare for the community. That's probably the one you're referring to, if I was to guess, if you're taking in what these people are saying.
Exactly right.
And I'll echo that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good point.
Can we have a call for the vote, please? Now, this would be, if you say yes, we're sending it to the county council with an unfavorable recommendation.
Yeah, so this is another opposite
Yes.
vote. Okay. Christine Deutscher,
No.
Robert Hawley,
Yes.
James Moffett,
Yes.
Donnie Ritzma,
Yes.
Sydney Schaefer,
No.
DJ Tavernier,
No.
Joe Velman. So you know you're a tiebreaker.
Yeah, I know I'm the tiebreaker. Thank
Okay.
you. I can see where this is gonna go. No. The motion fails for,
Didn't carry.
did not carry.
So under your rules, the next thing would need to be a motion for favorable recommendation. So
I'm
somebody,
Christine Deutscher, I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Ms. Deutscher and a second by Mr. Ritzma to send the,
I have an extra condition, though. Can we, so I want it to be favorable with the written commitments, except for, I would like to change the one from one visitor at the house to 0. Can I do
she was
that?
agreeable to, so,
Okay.
so the written,
And I appreciate everyone who came out today and spoke, and I completely get it. But I think we need more responsible gentlemen like this. to be involved in the sale of firearms. It's a right, and I don't own guns, I don't like guns, but I trust that he's doing it the right way. So that's why I'm voting this way.
We have a,
Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, so the public portion is now closed. Okay, so we have a motion by Ms. Deutscher and a second by Mr. Tavernier to send the special exemption to the county council with a favorable recommendation.
With the proposed written
With the
commitments.
condition of no cars allowed at the home,
No sales done at the.
no sales allowed at the home, listed in the petition.
And the other
And the other
proposed
And all the other written
by the
commitments as
staff.
proposed by the staff. Okay. Can we call for the vote, please?
Christine Deutscher,
Yes.
Robert Hawley,
No.
James Moffett,
No.
Donnie Ritzma,
No.
Sydney Schaefer,
Yes.
DJ Tavernier.
Tavernier.
Tavernier. I'm never going to get this right, and I greatly apologize. Joe Velman.
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, will send this special use to the county council with a favorable recommendation and will issue written findings of the facts. Thank you all for your time and efforts. You have one more hurdle, or he has one more hurdle to go through. The county council can decide whatever they would choose to do at that time.
And the HOA, of course.
And the HOA still has their recourse on everything as well, too. All right. Pretty much. Can we have the reading of petition number 6, please?
5.
Or 5, sorry, 5. Getting ahead of myself.
67399 State Road 331 Highway. Owner Sharon K. Holmes and Ronald Lee Holmes. Joint revocable trust dated 24th day of October 2018. Sharon K. Holmes and Ronald Lee Holmes trustees. Variance is requested, one from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 1.55 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for lot 1 of a proposed one-lot subdivision, and 2 from section 154.092D to allow a side setback of 8 feet where a minimum of 30 feet is required for an existing pole barn, zoning A agricultural district.
Can you click on the presentation there?
I need to click on something.
Good afternoon, Sean Klein, Area Plan Commission staff. Staff supports and recommends that these variances be granted. The parcel in question is already in existence, which I'll show you in a moment. It was created at least by 2004, if not prior to that date. Furthermore, the house on the parcel was constructed in 1972. Those two factors taken together demonstrate that this is a legal nonconforming lot of record, meaning that it can continue to be used residentially. If the house is ever destroyed, it can be rebuilt. And even if they voluntarily demolish the house, it could be replaced. So all that this variance is essentially doing is removing what little cloud of doubt there is as to the buildability of this existing lot by allowing it to go through the subdivision process, making the legal description a lot in a subdivision, which immediately notifies everyone that it is buildable. So we're not actually creating a new buildable lot in the agricultural district. When we turn to the state law criteria, staff finds that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community, mainly because it's not establishing a new opportunity for residential use in the agricultural district. We find that the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner, because once again, this is an existing residential use. We're not creating any new buildable lots in the ag district. And the setback is for an existing barn, which is already only 8 feet from the rear property line, which is already in existence. So that's not going to have any greater impact on the neighboring property. Furthermore, we find that the strict application of the terms of this chapter would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property, in that There is some practical difficulty in the inconvenience of having to demonstrate that this property is buildable presently, whereas if it gets the variances and goes through the subdivision, it's not going to actually change where the lines are on the ground or make something that's not buildable, but it'll be easy to confirm that fact in the future. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any question? No? Mr. Lang?
I sleep.
Are you muted? No.
Wake up.
I gotta unmute himself.
Yeah, this is Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney and Associates. The petition before you is exactly as Sean had indicated. The home was built in 1972 for the Holmes family. In the year 2004, there was a survey done to enlarge the parcel, which is the additional building that you see on the westerly portion there. When that survey was done and the legal description prepared for it, there was never a deed prepared transferring ownership of that piece, creating basically a building sitting on two parcels. The two property owners here, the Holmes and the adjacent property owner, the Schlarbs, are related people and are clearing up this snafu in the splitting of the property that took place in 2004. This, as Sean had indicated, will not increase the number of lots. We're going to make the lot that's there a legal lot of record, just increasing the size to include the building that's there. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Lang? Thank you, sir. Public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to?
Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom?
There does not appear
Seeing
to
none,
be.
the public portion is now closed. Is there any additional questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion?
Sid Schaefer, I'll make a motion, we accept as presented.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mr. Holly. Would you call for the vote, please?
Christine Deutscher,
Yes.
Robert Hawley,
Yes.
James Moffett,
Yes.
Donnie Ritzma,
Yes.
Sydney Schaefer,
Yes.
DJ Tavernier. I can't, I don't even,
Yes.
Joe Veltman.
Yes. Based on the testimony presented here today, the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue and find the facts. Thank you, Mr. Lang.
Thank you.
Read petition number 6, please.
58759 Basswood Road. Samuel J. and Sarah K. Schwartz, variance from section 154.092A to allow a lot area of 11.55 acres where a minimum of 20 acres is required for lot 1 of a proposed one-lot subdivision, zoning a agricultural district.
Can you click on there again, Frank? Thank you. Staff recommends denial of this variance. If the variance were granted, it would result in the creation of a 9-acre outlot, as shown here at the north of the property. And we mainly support denial of the variance because at 9 acres, it really doesn't have any agricultural value, and since it would be an outlot and could not be built on, it would essentially deprive this parcel of any conceivable value. And the danger there is, although this present action won't create another buildable lot in the agricultural district, 2, 5, 10 years from now, someone could bring this parcel in and they could support a variance to convert it into a lot, just based on the premise that it's essentially worthless at that point, because it's 9 acres. You can't farm that in any viable way. Furthermore, the actual area within the agricultural district that we find this in, unlike other areas that this board has seen, it hasn't been as prone to variances allowing for smaller lots and residential uses or historic splits that have allowed for residential lots. The agricultural integrity here is still fairly sound. Of the 15 parcels within a quarter mile, 11 of them are meeting the current development standards, that being the 20 acres of the agricultural district. They're all actively being tilled. Of the 4 that are smaller than 20 acres, they are all under the ownership of a property owner that also owns a 39-acre parcel. These parcels do not contain any structures, and they are also all actively being farmed. So we really don't want to allow the creation of a parcel that the only conceivable future use would be residential, as this particular district hasn't really been encroached upon by residential uses and still has a strong agricultural value. When we look at the 3 criteria found in state law, staff finds that the approval would be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare because it could ultimately result in the establishment of a new residential use in the agricultural district. This would also be detrimental to the use and value of the area adjacent to the property. And we find that there is no practical difficulty caused by the strict application of the terms of this chapter in this case. The current parcel is meeting the 20-acre development standard. It was meeting that when it was purchased by the property owner. And the property owner is retaining 11.5 acres of the current property. So this doesn't suggest to me that they're trying to bring it down to a residentially sized lot for any sort of financing reasons or because they find it difficult to sell with that acreage. I really can't conceive of any practical difficulty that would support dividing up this parcel any further. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? All right. Mr. Lang.
Yeah, my name is Terry Lang from Lang, Feeney and Associates. Our address is 715 South Michigan Street in South Bend, representing the petitioner. If you would please, Sean, go back to the survey drawing that's on the sketch there, please. Yeah, thank you. There is everything that Sean had indicated with regards to the zoning of the property and the surrounding area is in fact correct. There is a little bit of a hardship here that I wanted to interject, and it's the reasoning this whole petition is before you. The previous property owner to this piece, before the Swartzes owned the property, was the Thompsons. And the Thompsons were going through some severe medical circumstances and were forced to sell their home. And the Swartzes had agreed to purchase the property from them. One of the items that the Thompsons had asked if at all possible, for them to keep a small portion of the property, for them to be able to, they have livestock out there on the property currently in the pasture area. And this has been a piece of property that they've owned for quite some time, and they would like to keep their livestock on that outlot A 9-acre portion of it there. And it was, being it had been in the family for quite a while, it is something that the Swartzes had agreed that they would have this petition prepared and submitted. And if there's any way that the board could see for him to keep a small portion of the property so that he could keep his livestock that's out there on the site, that's why the petition has been prepared, and to fulfill the obligation of the Swartzes when they purchase the property to help the Thompson family with their medical bills that they have. So that's the reason for the petition before you.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Any questions for Mr. Lang on the petition? So Mr. Lang, are they gonna then fence it in and then move the livestock over to the outlot, I guess? Is that what they're plans to do?
That is the intent, yes.
Okay. And obviously they're living someplace off property and then someone else will care for it for them?
That is correct.
Okay.
Got a silly question.
No silly questions.
If they had put it on an acre, whatever, acre 5, the buildings, and then if they chose to split the remainder of land, they wouldn't even be here, other than to put the acre 5 house on it.
Right.
Because there's no law that says you can't split a piece of land and sell a piece.
Yeah, we do that quite often, frankly, but
Exactly.
usually it just encompasses just that one parcel, so the rest of it can stay with.
guess
I mean,
I'd ask
technically,
Mr. Lang,
technically,
but-
there always was a rule where you had to go through a subdivision to split a property for sale. The auditor recently, based on our direction, has really started enforcing that, so.
Oh, really? So you used
Yes.
to be, you didn't have to go for a subdivision, quote unquote, or now you do?
Well, you always
Always
have,
supposed to,
you
but
always have had
now it's
to,
being
yes.
enforced more.
Correct. You can't just
Ah, okay.
deed off a parcel of property anymore.
Oh,
Oh,
And that's in collaboration with the city of South Bend that has also, we've jointly begun enforcing that.
okay.
Well, and the whole idea here was to make it an outlot, so we're not creating a buildable lot. The Swartz's, interest was to purchase the home and the rest of that 11.2 acres that we show there. So it's not to create a buildable lot. That's why if this would be granted, it would be, created as an outlot to avoid any future, homes being built out there. Pasturing farm animals is something that is an agricultural use.
and I guess there's no law against devaluing your own property.
I would just add that from staff's perspective, of all of the ag splits that you've reviewed, this is potentially one of the more dangerous ones in terms of the area that it's in is very intact. This isn't, a corridor where we've seen splits
Right, this is
that are
new.
pervasive.
This is unfound territory. It goes back to Mr. Schaefer's pet peeve, so.
Yeah. One of my pet peeves.
One of your pet peeves, which I get. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Lang from the board? All right, thank you, Terry. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wish to speak in opposition to? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Is there any additional comments, questions, or is there a motion? We like outouts, but we can't control what happens in 40 years where somebody sees 9 acres that they just want to go build on. You're correct.
Yeah. It's- Like I say, you can't prevent them from devaluing it. You say it makes it worthless as farm ground.
Yep.
But I'll guarantee somebody will farm it.
Your recommendation is denial, right?
Correct.
For that purpose. What happens in 20, 30, 40, 50 years?
I'll make a motion to deny the variances.
We have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Ritzman and a second by Ms. Deutscher for a denial of the variance. Would you please call for the vote?
And again, a yes is deny, a no is not deny.
These are tough.
Opposite day.
Christine,
Yes.
Robert,
No.
James,
Yes.
Donnie,
Yes.
Sydney,
No.
DJ,
Yes.
Joe.
No. Based on the testimony presented here today, the area Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, denied the variance, right? That was-
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Has denied the variance as requested and will issue in findings of the facts.
All by their first names.
Right.
Hopefully they can like
Opposite ones are
lease
too
that
hard.
land
Thank you,
out for
Terry.
their livestock.
I'm not sure where till
an
you
actual
turn and,
vote.
Fine.
maybe a bigger outlet, small, I don't know,
Very
but we
informal.
can always file again, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
These opposite ones are killing me. We have the reading of petition number 7, please.
22506 Quinn Road. Owner is Jeff Smith. Variances requested from section 154.092D to allow a side setback of 10 feet where a minimum of 30 feet is required for proposed accessory building. Zoning is A, agricultural district.
Ms. Ryan?
This, and could you click on the?
I did.
Thank you. Great. Okay, yes, this is on Quinn Road, right at the intersection where Millet comes into the property. This is, was subdivided back in 1977. It's a 3-lot subdivision. Each of these lots are single-family home sized, not agricultural size. The rule for 20 acres in the agricultural district came into place 2 years after the subdivision was made. So they really do have a legitimate hardship in the setback requirement. Ordinarily, we require 30 feet of setback so that if you're adjacent to a tilled field, any stones or dust or manure or whatever gets sprayed from tilling and farming the property, there's enough space for it to dissipate and drop and not throw a stone through a window or something. But in this case, the adjoining property is more residential in size. And in reviewing the 3 criteria in state law, staff has come to recommend favorably. And just as a note, this is an agricultural zone property, so the height of the building is unlimited because it's of the agricultural district. The front setback is being met here. So the only thing that's really being considered is the side yard setback. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and the petitioner is available as well.
Any questions for staff? No? All right. This petitioner here would like to add to their petition.
He did a very good job. My name is Jeff Smith. I live at the address above, 22506.
If you could move that microphone just a little closer to you, Mr. Smith, thank you.
It's just a little narrow space, and what you don't see from the picture is my land's like that. That's about the only level spot is where they cleared it for the house. So it would be convenient. Thank you.
On the site, there's a tree right kind of where you're at, and the grove trees. Are those trees gonna have to come down to put this?
One tree, yes.
Okay.
But we're not going to take more than one.
No,
Just one tree will go
So
down.
basically, this is a really narrow and deep building is what it boils down to. 15
It's-
wide by 65 deep.
I just want to put the travel trailer in it, and then I'm going to upgrade the travel trailer to an RV someday. And then the trailer, I should add, the truck goes in front of it. So right now, the truck and trailer are 56 feet long.
It appears that your driveway is gravel leading up to the just concrete portion right out there. Will there be concrete or gravel running up to the new pole building as well, too?
I was planning on that, yes, at some day.
Just like a concrete apron, then gravel out the rest of the way?
I was hoping to upgrade to asphalt someday when time permits.
Got it. And made materials at this point. Okay. Any questions from the petitioner? All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you all for your patience today as well. The public portion is now open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of or have questions about this petition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this petition? Seeing none, the public portion is now closed. Is there any additional comments, questions, or I will entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the request for the property located at 22506. Let's see, Quinn Road, yes.
I'll second.
We have a motion for approval by Mr. Holly and a second by Mr. Tavernier. Would you call for the vote, please?
Christine?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
James?
Yes.
Donnie?
Yes.
Sydney?
Yes.
DJ?
Yes.
Joe?
He's not even trying
I
anymore.
know he's not.
Nope.
Yes, based off the testimony presented here today, the Error Board of Zoning Appeals, after careful consideration, finds the variance granted and will issue in finding the facts. Thank you all for your time. Good luck on the pole building. Have a great afternoon.
I just, when he calls it, I just want to go, say it, just say it.
All right, everyone take a moment, since we just got the findings of the facts at the start of this meeting, peruse it, make sure there's
did,
no
go ahead.
errors in it, please.
Day of the week is correct this time.
Yes, it
I feel like we need to.
Abby,
Yes, I printed the one that said corrected version.
do we need to keep the papers for the next meeting for the flag situation, or do you issue new papers?
We would include a new packet and any additional information.
No, but I felt that way when he left.
Yeah, I know. Well, they all cornered them.
If and when you
Still
have
out
read the
there.
findings of facts, I'll entertain a
It's still
motion
out
for
there.
approval.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said, if and when you've read the finding of the facts, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the finding
I'll
of
make
facts.
a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Tavernier made a motion to approve the findings of facts. Mr. Holly seconded it. All in favor?
Right.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
So moved.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
Yeah,
I just wanted to note under other business, a number of you asked about minutes, and I apologize, minutes from last month were not available for today. You can see that Frank is still with us today, helping us out. Thank you, Frank. We're working on filling Sam's position, but hopefully you'll have someone next month. But minutes from July and August, you'll have next month. Thank you.
And hopefully the new person can pronounce people's names better than I can.
You're doing all right.
I live less than a
3 into the
mile
mix.
from
Is there a
Right,
motion
right,
to
everyone has
adjourn?
their house on the way.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was Mr. Tavernier and
Tavernier.
Mr. Schaefer. Thank you all for your time.
Here's for